everybody. Welcome to June's Community Forum for the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. Today we have a very special guest, Carolyn Reuben, who is a wonderful, dear friend of mine. We've been friends for a very long time, and she was instrumental in getting me involved in mental health nutrition for addiction recovery. I was involved in it before I met her, but it was at her conference in 2007 that I first spoke publicly about using nutrition for family members of people with addiction. And it was also at that conference that we all founded the Alliance for Addiction Solutions, which was and is a nonprofit organization dedicated to getting this information out into the world. So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to know you.
We'll just do very brief introductions, just like 2 sentences, who you are, where you live, what you do. Michelle, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Michelle Perron. I live in Superior, Wisconsin, and I've been an addictions counselor for 17 years.
Welcome. And just so that everybody know, this is being recorded and this will go up onto YouTube. Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey Tully. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm a licensed professional counselor.
Welcome. Mary.
Mary Travestino from the beautiful Jersey Shore. I'm a functional nutrition counselor.
Thank you. Welcome, Mary. Susan.
I don't know if you can hear me on this. I'm
Yes.
yeah,
We can hear you.
retired dietitian.
Well, we could hear you. So we'll come back around.
I heard her say the retired.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tabitha.
okay.
Hi, my name's Tabitha Nolan. I'm from Louisiana and I am a life coach.
Welcome. Anna.
I am Anna and I'm from North Carolina and I'm just interested. I'm not in the field.
Glad you're here. Welcome. Heidi.
Good morning. This is Heidi. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm an acupuncturist and addictions nutrition counselor. Thank
Welcome.
you.
Valsa.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, I'm in New York. So I'm a physician, addiction specialist.
Welcome. All right, Carolyn, why don't you start just by explaining how you got into acupuncture and a little bit about your life with it, and then we'll jump into your presentation.
Okay. I actually am a writer originally. I've written 4 books and they're all out of print, so you can probably buy them very cheaply. Just look up my name, Carolyn Reuben, spelled like the sandwich, R-E-U-B-E-N. And I used to be the health columnist for a newspaper in Los Angeles called the LA Weekly for 11 years. And I thought, oh, if there's a third world war, I better have a better opportunity for staying alive and sharing something to exchange for food and shelter than being a writer. So I thought I'll be an acupuncturist because then I can look at people's tongues and feel their pulse and be anywhere in the world and not even know what their language is and be able to share something to barter. So I went to acupuncture college and kind of juggled media and medicine. I also went to film school at UCLA, wrote medical films. Anyway, with my acupuncture, I met a woman named Pat Keenan, who had gone to the same program in China that I did in Nanjing, and she had seen somebody with seeds in their ears, taped to their ears with medical tape, and brought that technology back to America, applying it to children, to babies, newborns and toddlers who were exposed to drugs in utero or afterwards. And so welcome, Jeff. And so I thought that's a great technology to bring to Sacramento. And I called up the local hospital, that county hospital, and they put me in touch with a woman who taught, who was a counselor at the local program for women. And her boss hired me to, I never did treat children. I ended up being hired to use ear acupuncture for adults. And after a year, I said, I can't be the only person in the whole county of Sacramento doing this addiction work. And so anyway, we ended up with a nonprofit in Sacramento that eventually put on the program, where wonderful Christina, who is an excellent speaker, gave her presentation that year, and then the second presentation in 2009. And yeah, and then in 2007, we started the national program called Alliance for Addiction Solutions, which I encourage all of you to join, in which Valsa Madhava, Dr. Madhava, right? Dr. Madhava is actively involved in. So I suddenly was involved in addiction treatment using acupuncture, and that took over my life. And then I discovered Julia Ross and Joan Matthews Larson, whose books are extremely influential, hopefully for you folks and for Christina, who now is a colleague of theirs. The late Joan Matthews Larson, whose book, 7 Weeks to Sobriety. If you don't have it in your bookcase, you must get it. It's our Bible for using with people of alcohol addiction. We say that differently now, and I can't remember what's the appropriate way of saying that. Alcohol use disorder, I think, is what we say now. So I'm really interested in the use of nutrition, but when I had my private acupuncture practice, after I got my license, I wasn't specifically working in addiction and acupuncture. I was working in allergies. So I've been asked to speak about allergies today. So I just want to first have you who are on this call think about if in the last 2 weeks anything has happened in your lives that has so dramatically changed your life that it'll never be the same again.
Wow.
I'm asking you that because I was thinking about a caterpillar and how a little wiggly wormy caterpillar suddenly at one point in his little life has hormones that trigger enzymes that start decomposing him from the inside out. And within 14 days, he has transformed totally from a worm into a butterfly that flies away from its cocoon. And if that magical thing could happen in our lives, probably in your gardens right at this moment, can we all imagine that some other phantasmagorical changes are taking place inside us and outside us that we haven't even been aware of, that could change our lives, I want you to imagine that nature actually is a living, pulsing, vibrating energy field, that if nature is doing that, we as a part of nature are too. And can you imagine that these flows of nature, these flows of energy can help and hurt and heal? And I want us to think about our vibration as like a symphony, that inside us is a symphony of vibrations. The liver and the lungs and the skin and every part of us has its own vibration. And when they're in harmony, the symphony is in tune and sounds well, and we are not in pain and we do not have disease. So the goal of our allergy treatment, like every other kind of treatment that all of you are doing in your lives for yourselves, your family, and your clients, is to get back in tune. So the one manifestation I'm talking about today of this being out of tune is allergies. And an allergy is an uncommon reaction to a common substance, right? And the allergen is the trigger for that reaction. It can be a food, it can be an insect, it can be a chemical. When my mother sat next to me in the car and the sun came through the window, she would sneeze. It can be anything. It can be anything. Sneezing, coughing, itchy eyes, and so on, wheezing are common, as are digestive upsets, but the brain can also have an allergic reaction. You can have depression, irritation, foggy headedness, even violence from an allergic reaction. In children, how many people, raise your hand if you have children in your lives, your own children or your grandchildren or in your practice. If you see a child with red ears, if you see a child with a crease at an angle under the eyes, or a child with a wrinkle right across the nose from frequent allergy salutes, you know that child has allergies. One of the best books that I've come across about this is from pediatrician Doris Rapp, R-A-P-P. Christina, at some point, is going to share with you my page of resources, and these books that I'm going to talk about are listed on that resource page. Doris Rapp gives pictures of children with allergies, and her first book, I was saying, was "Is This Your Child?" And the second was "Is This Your Child's World?" And she's written others after that. The immune system is also intimately tied to allergies because it's your immune system that begins the whole allergic biochemical cascade. First thing that happens is the immune system identifies an invader and it produces IgE, immunoglobulin E, antibodies. Oh, Christina is sharing my references. Okay.
Just to let everybody know,
They're going to get that,
you
right?
had to register for this class, and so we have your email address, and so we will be sending all of Carolyn's references out to you at the end. But this
That's
is just a little well, I was hoping to do a little preview, but
okay.
it's not working.
Well,
Anyway,
I think I can see it. Can everybody see it? All of you see it? Yeah, we can all see it.
okay.
Okay, good. So the IgE stimulates the histamine reaction from your mast cells. And histamine is what causes the itchy eyes and the runny nose and the redness and swelling and even discomfort. It's the dramatic cause of your many of your symptoms, the ordinary expected symptoms of allergy. And that's why people rush to the store for antihistamines, right? And about a fourth of American adults have allergies and about a fifth of the killed children. But if you think that there seems to be more allergies happening than before in your life, you're right, because global warming heats up the world and seasonal allergies are based on pollen counts are based on warmth. And as it gets warmer, there's more people having allergies. So I think that there are four main reasons for allergies. One is genetic predisposition. Now, can you put those up, Christina? Genetic predisposition, overexposure to some substance, immune system weakness and fatigue, and emotional trauma. Those are the four. So genetic predisposition. You receive directions, as you all know, for what you look like and your personality and your talents from your parents and your grandparents. I never understood why research has found that the life of one's grandmother directly can be linked to a grandchild's asthma. How could that be? Until it was pointed out that a woman has every egg that she will ever have in her body when she is born, which means when she's in her mother's womb, her mother's body is influenced by its environment. But the egg that became you is in your mother when she was in her mother's womb. And so the nutrition and the stress and trauma of her life and the chemical exposure and all that happened to the grandmother influenced the egg that was in the mommy that grew up and had you. So then it made sense biologically. It wasn't like magic or weird stuff. It's total science. So you're also influenced by your father's inheritance, right? And all of this has to do with predisposition. This is the key. What happens to you in this life, what you look like, and what the symptoms of your distress are all from predispositions in exposure to what your life choices became. So, you know, if you lived in Alaska on the fringes of society and you never were exposed to pollen, you know, you wouldn't have seasonal allergies, even if you inherited the tendency to have seasonal allergies from both of your parents. So there is free will involved in this. You could make choices that influence the expression of what you inherited from your parents. Overexposure, my number 2, overexposure to a substance. This means that if you eat the same thing day after day after day and it goes through your digestive system, and then it encounters leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome meaning that the boundaries of one cell to another, which are supposed to be very tight, are boggy and leaky in your digestive system, allowing molecules larger than the immune system in the next door blood system expects to see in the blood system. If larger than normal molecules pass through the lining of the digestive system into the bloodstream, then your immune system, which is always on the alert, searching for invaders, doesn't identify that as a digested piece of hamburger. It's supposed to be Y measurement after digestion. And if it passes through and it's X microns instead, the immune system doesn't recognize that protein as normal food. It recognizes it as a dangerous invader, and it mounts an attack, and we have friendly fire in this war, and there is trouble. There is trouble, and you have irritation of your digestive system, and you have allergic reactions to it.
And Carolyn, if I can just jump in here for a moment.
Yes.
We also have brain reactions. So what we normally, and I just want to remind everybody of this, that what we normally consider allergies, which is the like sniffly stuff or the hives, we can also have very significant brain allergies, which include the depression and the anxiety and the hearing voices and profound fatigue. So when you hear Carolyn talk about allergy, please keep in mind that she's including the emotional symptoms.
Absolutely. Mental health is intimately involved in your digestive system and in allergy, quote unquote, allergy reactions. Yeah. And emotional issues from the past that are creating these problems. Right. Thank you. So the third thing I mentioned as a cause of allergies is immune system weakness and also fatigue, as you said. Babies, the elderly, people undergoing chemotherapy, if you have AIDS, if you have other autoimmune diseases, are especially working hard to stay afloat. Their immune system is struggling and very easy to develop allergic reactions in the brain and in the body itself. It can also happen just from being overtired and underjoyed. If you're tired and I come up and tap you on the shoulder, you may squeal and jerk around. And if you're completely relaxed and at peace inside and I tap you on the shoulder, you may just simply turn your head. Well, when the body has that squealing overreaction, that's when you end up with allergic reactions. Let's talk about the emotional factors, my number 4 cause of allergies. Emotional factors play a larger role than you can imagine. One woman came to treatment wanting relief from her overreaction to alcohol. She thought it was genetic. However, the practitioner discovered it wasn't genetic, it was emotional. So the practitioner asked the woman, what has happened in your life that's connected to alcohol that could have caused you trauma? And she said, oh, nothing. And then went, oh, wait. When I was in college, I got drunk at a party and a man took advantage of me. So we say it politely. He took advantage of me. And that trauma triggered her to have a reaction to alcohol. In another case, a woman came for treatment for bread. She was sure that she had gluten sensitivity. She was gluten intolerant. The practitioner discovered no, she didn't have a genetic inheritance to bread. She didn't have a gluten intolerance to bread. It was emotional. What happened in your life about bread? And she went, oh my gosh. When I was a small child, I lived in another country where bread was a very important part of our diet. And my job was to attach money to a basket, put the basket over the balcony, drop it to the first floor, drop it to the ground floor where the bread man came every day. And he exchanged the money for bread in the basket. I pulled it up and my family had bread for the day. And one day, when I dropped the basket, the bread man came and saw no money in it. Somehow it had disconnected and was not in the basket. And he didn't put any bread in. And my family, my parents, severely chastised me and shamed me that day. And once the treatment occurred for the emotional connection to the trauma, it was done. She was no longer sensitive to bread. Any questions so far? I should be looking at the.
Yes, hi, how you doing?
Hi, Alton, welcome.
Good.
Welcome.
And I think that this is marvelous that we're doing this. I'm thinking I'm just a little surprised with emotional trauma being conducive to allergies. And I really got to research more about, action of the two. I'd love for you to, maybe not today, but at some point have a conversation about how the two really connect. Because when I think of allergies, I think more genetics, I think more science and stuff like that, not so much emotional.
Okay, so have you heard of the term psychoneuroimmunology?
I have.
So you can think of it through that mechanism, that it's the same kind of mechanism where if you, a little later, I'm going to talk about chug-a-lugging vitamin C. It's very sour. Vitamin C is very sour. So in my mind, when I think about my experience of chug-a-lugging a bottle of vitamin C powder, instantly I can feel a change in my mouth. I don't know if any of you can imagine biting on a lemon and immediately feeling a change in the saliva in your mouth, because the mind creates a condition that you're imagining in your mind. So allergy, if you talk to a medical doctor, has to do with immunoglobulins. We're using the term allergy to mean an abnormal reaction to a normal condition that nobody else around you is having a reaction to, but your body is choosing to have a reaction to it. So in the two experiences that I just shared about the bread and about the alcohol, there was a trigger in the mind of the person by being exposed to or even thinking about consuming something that had a negative reaction in their mind and their subconscious. And so their body reacted physically to that mental reminder of the trauma. Does that make sense? You okay with that? With that
Yes,
answer?
makes a
Okay.
lot. Yes.
All right. Okay, good. Yeah. So in summary, we can inherit allergies. That's the usual way we think about it, that, you know, all my family has cat allergies or all my family, blah, blah. But we can also overexpose ourselves to substances, especially simultaneous with certain lifestyle choices that create a condition inside us that make it difficult for us to metabolize and to digest foods that then, or substances. We can be exposed to chemicals, we can be exposed to drugs, we can be exposed to things that create an abnormal reaction. And what else? We can have the long-lasting trauma that triggers us to have reactions.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
may I share a story about the overexposure?
Sure.
So some of you who've been in my classes or who know me for a long time know that at one point in my life, and thanks to Carolyn, this is no longer true, but at one point in my life, porn at first made me significantly depressed and then acutely suicidal. So I was depressed all my life from day one. I had 9 different biochemical drivers or reasons or causes of my depression. And I got through 8 of them. But in my early 40s, I still had depression in spite of all of the work I had done. And one morning in the middle of summer, I woke up and I was acutely suicidal. I had never been suicidal before, ever. And here it was, and it slammed me. I didn't act on it because I had enough stability by that point in time, but it was pretty real. And it took a couple of weeks before I put my nutritionist hat on. But when I did, I asked myself, well, what has changed this summer? My stress hasn't changed, but something in my environment must have changed to set up this suicidal thing. And I already knew that I was very sensitive to foods. And I thought, okay, what's changed food wise? And some people consider that there are 5 top allergens in this country, corn being one of them. And I thought, corn, And I realized that I had moved from having corn here, there, and wherever, and in my iodized salt every day, to eating it every day because it was the middle of the summer in California. There's lots of fresh, juicy, sweet, tender, wonderful, yummy corn on the market. And I was really enjoying, corn on the cob and corn salsa and corn this and corn that. And I started overexposing myself to corn. And my body shifted from, it wasn't able to deal with it anyway because it had been a cause of my depression, but it just went boom. And once I realized that, I completely eliminated corn from my diet. And within 5 days, the suicidal depression was gone. And then once I realized all the hidden causes or sources of corn, I eliminated the rest of them, and boom, all my depression was gone.
Wow.
And then, one of the reasons Carolyn is on this webinar is because I had to avoid corn dramatically for a long time. And then I did NAET and got it down to a dull roar where I still couldn't eat corn, but at least if I got it by mistake, I didn't want to kill myself. So this was an improvement.
Good.
And then a couple of years ago, Carolyn and I did another NAET treatment, and I can now enjoy corn.
Oh, good. All
Okay,
right.
back to you, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I forgot about that. I had a patient who every time somebody in her office would use in the room what everyone shared where they went for their break, the break room, if they would put the popcorn in the microwave, she'd instantly get a migraine headache. And she and her sister both had that problem. And they sent me a picture, the 2 of them eating the California corn after treatment for corn. Yeah, corn. Okay, so there's all these reasons why people have allergies. Let's get to what do we do about it? I'm going to talk about 4 different things. The whole point is to get that body in tune. And how do we do that? How do we get it in tune? How do we open up the channels that the Chinese medicine sages of ancient days discovered were the ultimate cause of health and disease? We're holistic practitioners, so we're looking for non-pharmaceutical treatments. So let's start with asthma. If you have asthma, 3 things are happening simultaneously. Inside your bronchioles, the little tubes, the smaller parts of the smaller branches in the tree, the bronchus and then the bronchioles. Inside them, there's mucus and it clogs the space where the air is supposed to go. The tissue itself swells, and around every single bronchiole, there are muscles, and the muscles contract. So you've got contraction and clogging and swelling. And that's why you can't breathe out very well when you have asthma. So in 1998, 2 men were given the Nobel Prize for discovering that NO, nitric oxide, relaxes blood vessels. It's very good for men to know about that because nitric oxide relaxing blood vessels has to do with men's sexual life. But we won't go into that here. We're talking about allergies. And back, that was 1998 about the cardiovascular system. But back in 1962, a Russian doctor named Konstantin Buteyko, Buteyko, and you'll get that information in that sheet that you saw earlier. Konstantin Buteyko discovered that the bronchioles that were contracted with those muscles also relaxed when nitric oxide increased in the body. And the way that you can increase nitric oxide is to release all the air in your lungs and hold your breath. And holding your breath and being low in oxygen increases NO in your body. So the way that he had people do it is to close the nostrils, breathe out, and hold your breath. And figure out what the number of beats is that you can hold your breath. So you can either nod, 1, 2, 3, or you can tap your thigh, 1, 2, 3, or you can tap your foot. But as you're holding your breath, you're counting some way. And then when you feel the need, you don't wait till they're gasping. You just, when you feel the need that it's really going to be uncomfortable if I keep holding longer, then you breathe, and you breathe. You don't take huge gulps of air. You just gently breathe in until you're kind of at neutral level, and then you do it again. And if you're getting into an asthma attack, you might only count to 10, and then you have to take another breath. And within 3 or 4 times of repeating the Buteyko method of doing this, breathing out, holding your breath, holding your breath, holding your breath, you may discover you're up to 60 within 3 or 4 times. And you've totally forgotten about your asthma attack. It is amazing. It
Hey,
feels
Carol.
Yes.
Carolyn, hi, by the way. Good to see
honey.
you. So do you have to hold your nose or can you just hold your breath?
Buteyko had you hold your nose so that you didn't sneak any.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You don't
That's-
have to, but that's true.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about that? So on your piece of paper, it has the website, which is basically buteykoclinic.com. But if you just Google Buteyko, you'll find out all about the man and his discovery. And there are many, many clinics in Russia and in the UK, not so much in the United States because we're not into alternatives to medicine here as much, but it's a wonderful technique where people could stop using their inhalers. Because as soon as they started feeling the tension inside their lungs, they do it and boom, good. The second response that I'm going to talk about is nature's antihistamine, which is vitamin C. And it's quite a good idea for all of you who see clients to have some powdered vitamin C, like maybe that, what's it called? Emergency, like those packets or alternatives to that. Quick, that you can quickly put into water, and somebody who's having an allergic reaction, yourself, your loved ones, or your clients, they can quickly take some vitamin C, get it in them, because that's nature's antihistamine. I'll tell you a story about myself. I had one day, many years ago, before I was able to stop my own allergy to cats, which was life-threatening, I had two events planned. One, somebody was videotaping me talking about nutritional supplements for some media project they were doing. And they had asked me to go to a particular house in downtown LA. And later that evening, I was to go to my own birthday party that my friends were giving me in a restaurant in Santa Monica, in California. So as I'm preparing and doing my presentation, I'm realizing, uh-oh, there's a cat in this house somewhere, because I'm starting to get asthma. So I'm in the car driving down Wilshire Boulevard, and I'm getting asthma, and I'm having trouble breathing. And I'm thinking, do I have to cancel my own birthday party and go to the emergency room? No. I reached into the passenger seat where I have one of my supplements, which is, as I said a minute ago, a bottle of crystallized vitamin C. And I'm chugging a lug, chug a lug, chug a lug, chug a lug as I'm driving down the street. Ugh, it was very sour, but I got thousands of milligrams of vitamin C into me. I was able to be the guest of honor. I couldn't think of the word guest. The guest of honor at my own party. I didn't have to go to the emergency room that night. It works. Okay, my third method of quick relief for allergies is tapping. How many people, raise your hand, how many people know anything about tapping? Okay, so does everybody? Okay, the people who I can't see, I don't know if you can. Say aloud. Does anybody not know what I'm talking about when I do tapping, talk about tapping? Oh, everybody here knows about it already? Okay, well, I was gonna do a whole thing on tapping. Maybe, should I do it anyway, Christina?
Yeah.
Huh? I should, oh.
I think you should.
I know
Patty?
some, but not as much. So that would be good if you would go over it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna go over tapping. The original name for tapping is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's a combination of psychology and acupressure, okay? So acupressure means that you're tapping with your hand on the skin surface on specific points that the ancient brilliant Chinese discovered had biological effects. Of course, touching your skin isn't as powerful as sticking a needle through the skin. So you may have to repeat acupressure techniques more often than if you had acupuncture, but they still can work. And this works extremely powerfully, this tapping technique. So imagine that you are in your bathroom and you are going to take a shower, and you've plugged in an electric razor, a radio, a hair dryer, and then you plug in your space heater and the lights go out. You throw on a robe and you go to the breaker box, which could be in your basement or outside the house on the wall, and you flip a switch and the lights go on back in the house in your bedroom. So if you think about acupuncture like that, then you can understand why you'll go to an acupuncturist and you're saying, my shoulder hurts, and they're putting a needle somewhere else, because they're moving the energy just like in the electrical system in your house. The ancient Chinese said, as above, so below, right? So everything that you know about in an electrical system, the resistors, the condensers, the batteries, the receivers, the amplifiers, all of that is inside us as well. And that has to do with the acupuncture process and the acupressure process. And if you take a course in physics and you study electricity and you take physiology, you will begin to see the correlation, as I did. So the best acupuncturist has the understanding of the way the energy moves and can use the least needles for the most efficient movement of this energy we've been talking about all day. So the EFT and tapping starts with a statement that counteracts our human tendency to find a reason why this is not going to work. So let's pretend you have a headache and you say, just repeat these words after me. Even though I get a headache every day around this time, and here it is. I'm waiting. Say it.
We're muted.
Oh, you're muted. Unmute yourselves. Can you unmute them? Can you unmute them? You know?
You can all unmute yourselves.
Okay,
I'm
unmute
not quite
yourselves,
sure how
everybody.
to.
And repeat after me. It's
Okay.
important that you say it out loud. And I want to hear that you said it. Okay. Even though I get a headache every day around this time. And here it is.
Even though I get a
Even though I get a
headache
headache every day
around this
around this
time.
time,
And here it is. I still love and appreciate myself.
I
still
still
love and
appreciate
appreciate myself.
myself.
Even though I have my usual headache in the exact same place it always is, across my forehead.
Even
Even though I have my
I
usual
always have
headache
a
at the
headache in the
exact
exact same place across my forehead.
across my
forehead.
I still deeply and completely love and appreciate myself.
I
still
still deeply and
deeply
completely love
appreciate
myself.
Even though this headache appears every day just before my teenagers arrive home from school.
Even though this
this
headache
headache
appears
appears
every
every
day
day
just
before
before my
my
teenager
teenagers
arrives home.
home
from school.
And
Cool.
treat me like I'm stupid and useless.
And
treat me like I'm stupid and useless.
I remember when they adored me.
I
I
remember
remember when they adored me.
And as youngsters told me they wanted me to be sure to come with them on their honeymoons.
As youngsters wanted me to come on their
Their honeymoon.
Because they couldn't imagine living even one night without me.
They
Because
couldn't imagine
they couldn't
living one
imagine
night without
without
me.
Okay, now we're adding acupressure to our words. We use the fingers of one hand against the side of the other hand, either hand, doesn't matter, whichever hand feels right for you. Okay, here we go. Even though I get a headache every day around this time, and here it is.
Even though I get a
headache every day around
at
this time.
time.
Here it is.
Here it
Here
is.
it is. I deeply and completely love and appreciate myself.
I
I
did.
deeply and completely love
sincerely
and
love and
appreciate
appreciate
myself.
myself.
Mhm. Even though I have my usual headache in the same exact place, right across my forehead.
Even
Even though I have my
I always
headache
have
in
the
the
same
same
exact
place
headache in the
across my
same place
forehead.
across my forehead.
I deeply and completely love and appreciate myself.
I
I
deeply and completely love
love
and appreciate myself.
myself.
Good. Even though this headache appears every day just before my teenagers arrive home from school.
Even
Even though
this
this headache
headache
appears
comes
every day right
before
before my
teenager
teenager arrives
arrives
home.
Cool.
And they treat me like I'm useless and stupid.
And they
And they
treat me like I'm useless and stupid.
stupid.
I remember when they adored me.
I
remember when they adored
me.
And as youngsters wanted me to go with them on their honeymoons.
And as youngsters wanted me to go with them on their honeymoon.
Honeymoon.
Because they couldn't imagine living one night without me.
Because they
Because they couldn't manage
imagine
living one night without me.
without me.
Now we're moving on to the next part of the treatment. There's 8 other acupressure points. Follow me as I tap on each one. Top of the head, beginning of the eyebrows, the end of the eyebrows, under the eyes, under the nose, under the mouth, under the clavicle, under the neck. And then hug yourself. Either hug yourself and tap where your fingers tap on your ribs, or do the monkey and tap about one hand down from whichever works best. I will just tell you a really funny story right away, really fast, which was I was teaching this at a drug treatment program, and I thought it would be more efficient if instead of going under the nose and under the mouth, I went like this. Well, I'm sorry, but when I went like this, everybody in the room hysterically laughing. Okay, good. Christina is showing you the tapping points. Can everybody see the tapping points while we're going to do this?
Yes.
Okay, now can you make it any bigger, Christina?
Mm,
Now to add
I don't
not
think
the
so.
whole, not the whole script that we just said, just something brief to remind us about what we're working on. Okay, so the top of the head, follow me again, top of the head. This, and say out loud, this daily headache.
This
Daily headache.
Daily headache.
Daily headache.
Beginning of the eyebrow. I love my teens.
I love my teens.
End of the eyebrow, but they could be pains in the neck.
But they could be pains in the neck.
Or in this case, pains in the head.
Pains in the head.
In the head.
Or pain.
Under the eyebrow. I love my teens.
I love
Love my teens.
And under the nose, but I tense up every day, expecting their negativity.
But I tense up every day, expecting their negativity.
Under the mouth, I deserve respect.
I
I
deserve
deserve respect.
And now under the neck and under the clavicle here. My teens are so ridiculously predictable, it's funny.
My teens are so ridiculously predictable, it's funny.
And under your arm. As I recall, I was even worse with my mom. Maybe it's genetic.
As I recall, I was even worse with my mom.
I was
Maybe
even
it's
worse with
genetic.
my mom. Maybe it's genetic.
Okay, let's stop a minute. Did anybody feel an improvement about any symptom that you happen to have that you didn't mention, or I didn't ask you, before we started doing this?
Yeah.
I feel refreshed.
Yeah.
Refreshed?
A
Okay.
little lighter. Yeah.
Yeah, lighter.
Did anybody have any pain that I didn't know you had pain?
I was sneezing and coughing, and that's why I turned off my camera a few times, and now that seems to be gone.
Woohoo! Okay, success. When you do EFT, I've been in a room with several hundred people when Gary Craig was doing a presentation, who was the founder of Emotional Freedom Technique. And as he explained it, your body, your subconscious knows you're working on you. So whatever issues you have, even though you're talking about the person on the stage, you're saying, you're repeating the words Gary's using about the guy with macular degeneration or something that you don't have. Your body's dealing with your own issue. And so very often you lose your own symptom, which is so nice.
Nice.
You're doing this with
Thank you, Carolyn. That's cool.
It was great.
Okay, next, the fourth. What time is it? The fourth one that we're going to talk about is the NAET that Christine introduced to you, which is Nambudripad's allergy elimination techniques. By the way, just to finish the last part that I wanted to mention to you about EFT, you can find dozens and dozens of people for free giving you the EFT process online. All you have to do is just look up tapping for tapping for depression, and follow along and let your own version come out. Let your words just flow as you think about words, and it'll be great. And always think about metaphors. Metaphors. If your back hurts, who are you angry with? If your neck hurts, who's a pain in the neck in your life? If your eyes are watering and itchy, you know, what have you not seen? What are you not looking at in your life? What have you not cried over? And if you've got a sore throat, what words have you not said to somebody? Okay, NAET. Nambudripad's allergy elimination techniques. Dr. Debbie Nambudripad is a nurse and a chiropractor and an acupuncturist and a PhD, and she got an MD from a Caspian country. So I don't know, she must have been the oldest in her family. But anyway, she is an amazing human being that created this technique that has helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world. And it was the main way that I maintained a practice. That's what I did. I did NAET in my medical practice, other than my work in addiction. My private medical practice, it was NAET. NAET. AET is Allergy Elimination Techniques. Nambudripad's Allergy Elimination Techniques. Just look up naet.com and you go to that website. She's retired, but her son took over the practice in Southern California. This is a specialized technique that is used by trained professionals. And she would not train anybody who couldn't diagnose and treat. So I attempted during COVID to teach people how to do it to each other because I wasn't seeing patients. I attempted to use Zoom and to teach husbands and wives how to treat each other. And I must say that it was not as effective to have non-professionals doing it to each other as going to somebody who knew the whole routine, who prepares you for the treatment, and who knows how to hello there, over there, who knows how to maintain the treatment afterwards. You have to do certain things to maintain the treatment. The treatment is acupressure on the back while the client or patient or whatever is person with allergies is holding the actual thing they're allergic to, or a vial like this little glass vial. So in my practice, so I had many of these cases, and each one is a different possible allergen. Each of these vials, they've been put through a computer that has the resonance of the substance, anything from vitamins, minerals, foods, chemicals, outdoor allergens, anything you could think of, anything you could be allergic to. Hot and cold is and the way you do it is the person's holding the sample, either the actual thing or a representation of it that's electronically created through the computer. And the practitioner rubs on the back, on the spine, 2 different rows, while the person's doing a breathing technique. And then the person has to stay away from that substance for at least 24 hours. If the person is being treated for an animal, that person cannot go home after the treatment. The person has to sleep somewhere else and have new clean clothes after the treatment. If the person's being treated for outdoor allergens, the person has to go home, close the doors, close the windows, and stay inside for the minimum of 24 hours. It's also useful if after the acupressure treatment, the person is in the clinic is given an acupuncture treatment, because the way it started was so allergic to so many things. She was always in pain. She had multiple bronchitis and pneumonia experiences. And all her life, she had rashes and, like I said, pain, joint pain and other pain. And when she came to America from India, she was a nurse. And nobody had ever said anything about her having allergies in her whole medical career. Then she came to America, decided to be a chiropractor. And when she was in chiropractic college, an acupuncturist came to speak. And she was at the back of the room, wheezing and coughing. And so after the presentation, the acupuncturist went up to her and said, "Hey, you sound like you have allergies." And she said, "What, me? Allergies?" And the person suggested that she do one of those withdrawal programs where you don't eat anything for a couple of days, just drink water, and then you eat one thing and you wait and see if you have a reaction. And if you don't, then you add another thing. And if you do, you don't eat that thing, you eat something else. Anyway, she did that and discovered that she could eat white rice and broccoli. And if she had anything else, she got her pain. If she stuck to white rice and broccoli, she was okay. And one day she was so hungry because the rice hadn't cooked yet, and she ate a carrot and she felt weak. Meanwhile, by this time she was a chiropractor and she went to acupuncture college, she and her husband. And she said, Chris, give me an acupuncture treatment. And he put a needle right there. And if you imagine this is my big toe and this is my second toe, the same point on the foot between the first toe and the second toe. Those are called the four. I just blanked on the name, the four somethings. Those are the key to retuning the body in acupuncture. Those 4 points are like retuning the whole body. So he put the points in her and she still went unconscious for a few minutes. She fainted from eating a carrot. She was so hypersensitive. And when she came to, she realized she wasn't sensitive to the carrot anymore. And that was the beginning of her development of NAET. It's an amazingly useful technique. And if you go on the website, naet.com, you can look where you can put in your zip code and then say how many miles, from 20 to 100 away. You can find a practitioner, hopefully, that has trained with her, and you can see how many trainings the person has done with the Nambudripad people, because they have conferences every year, and they have more and more different trainings that give you more and more background on how to do this. So you want to go to someone that has listed a lot of times that they've trained with the Nambudripads. Any questions about this so far?
Carolyn, this is great. I think we see so many young kids now with food allergies and, the addiction to ultra processed foods. And I'm wondering, how about peanut allergies where people, need to have an EpiPen? Have you ever known anyone to be actually cured of that?
I had a person in my practice years ago who was so allergic to peanuts that, remember, PSA was a airline. She would call PSA, that was in California area. She would call the airline and they would not serve peanuts on the entire plane of whatever airline, whatever flight she was going to be on. Because if somebody at the back of the plane opened up the peanut, she could die.
Yeah.
It was that serious. And the thing about these kind of allergies is, this is one of the reasons that a medical professional needs to do this work with allergies. You have to be treated for other things, like we were talking about earlier, when you're hypersensitive and you squeal and you jerk. If your body is already allergic to a lot of things, that means that your blood has a lot of antibodies to various things floating around. You have to clear those out, then that takes a long time. Before you get to a point to be willing and ready to be treated for something that's life-threatening. You can't just the very first time or second or third or fourth time or even the fifth time go to get treated for something that's life-threatening. Because surely if you're that allergic, you have other allergies that haven't been diagnosed or treated that are important too, that need to be cleared so that you're ready, your body's ready to be cleared. And so in this case, this woman still doesn't eat peanuts, but she's not life-threateningly allergic to them anymore. So she doesn't, of course, now they don't even they didn't even give peanuts on planes, but you know what I'm saying? It's a whole different. So I had another experience. So I'll share you about this idea of this biochemical reaction to allergies. A woman was divorced and they had a son. And it was a holiday weekend. So there was she brought him on a Friday and Monday was a holiday. And then he had to go to his father, who lived up in the mountains. And I lived down in Sacramento. And so she brought the boy, and he was allergic to trees. And his father lived in pine tree heaven up in the mountains. And so his father didn't believe in any of this stuff that she was using, any of these alternative treatments. So she secretly brought him to me, and I treated him for a number of things. And I was ready to treat him for trees. And I did treat him for trees. And it happened, unfortunately, that Tuesday, he had an appointment. His father had an appointment to take him to the allergist. Okay, so always in the past, when the boy was taken to the allergist, the first thing they do is like a scratch test. And always before, when the scratch test was done, there was an immediate reaction to the scratch test. So I treat him and he stays away on the weekend of the trees. And then he goes home and the father finds out that he got treated and he's going to prove that it didn't work, right? So he takes the boy on Tuesday to the allergist and they do the scratch test and there's no reaction. So then the allergist injects the allergen under the skin into the boy. And then he has a welt. So I called, so the father said, see, it didn't work. So I called Dr. Nambudripad and I say, what do I say to the mother about this? And Dr. Nambudripad said, well, did he react to the trees when he was driving home like he always does? Did he have a reaction? Well, I forgot, I didn't ask her that, right? But Dr. Nambudripad explained to me, it's a real physical experience inside the blood. When you have an allergic reaction, you have antibodies that are floating around. And it takes a while for the body to say to itself, we're all members of the Sierra Club. We don't need extra molecules that we don't use. The body gets rid of molecules that are unnecessary. So eventually it gets rid of those antibodies. But it takes a while for it to figure out, oh, I'm not reacting to that substance anymore. I don't need those inside me. So the initial reaction was, no, the kid was fine and he probably didn't have a reaction to the trees. But if you're going to inject the actual thing, he's going to have a skin, at least a skin reaction, even if he didn't have the symptoms that he originally had. Does that make sense? His body decided it's not going to react to trees anymore, but there was still a physiological reaction that wasn't stopped in 2 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You look
Thank
like
you for that explanation. It's good.
your brows are furrowed, and it looks like you don't believe what I just said, or you don't understand it. Are you okay with that explanation? So over and over again, all the years that I've been doing this, people have written to me about, like the people with the corn, that their lives have been transformed because they don't react to the substance that used to react. Even though it took me years to get rid of my own cat allergy, over and over and over again, I got rid of people's cat allergy after I treated them for other things. And then we got to the cats, because there's foods that we have to do first. Got to the cats. I had a woman who had violent asthma to cats, treated her for cats. She went to stay at a friend's house because she felt like she wasn't allergic to cats anymore. She was sleeping on a couch that was the cat's couch. So she woke up in the morning with the cat on her chest. Yeah. She had no reaction to the cat after having had asthma for years, for not being able to go to that friend's house. So this is a very powerful treatment that can work and change people's lives.
So Carolyn?
Doesn't work all
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Do you have any other stories of, because you've been focusing a lot on asthma, which is cool, but do you have any other stories about mental health symptoms or how you've used this with people with addictions?
Yes, that corn business. I have other people that their parents fought and fought and fought, and it was corn that caused the mother to go into paroxysms of anger and uncontrolled emotional outbursts. So that was one right away came to my mind about this whole family I had to treat for emotional issues related to the foods that they were allergic to. Yeah. It's very common, very common. You have to look I would recommend that those of you who work in mental health and addiction, think about this when you see, especially when you see people react that in a way that doesn't match the trigger. You say, hey, how are you today to your husband? And he snaps, I'm fine as always. Where it's, woo, okay. When you have that kind of response, then you start thinking, it's not me. What did he eat? What did he drink? What did he inhale on his way to, was he behind a truck on his way home that was outgassing? Yes, Patty.
Well, how do you identify what the allergen is, like with this technique?
Okay, I am going to, does everybody know about this?
Muscle testing, okay.
Does everybody know about that? Okay, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, so muscle testing was the basis of the NAET
Okay.
evaluation. That's how we figured it out. Usually the person puts their arm out and you put some pressure on it, but it's easy to test yourself. You know, just I have some tea here, and usually the tea is a different color. So before this program, I went like this, I didn't put my finger all the way into the water, but I put my finger down close to it so that my body could feel the energy of the water. And I said to myself, is that water safe to drink? And in my physiology, the two fingers, the thumb and the little finger together, if they stay together, the answer is yes. So I asked, is this safe to drink? And my answer to myself was yes. Last night I had some old tea bags in water and I said, is this safe to drink? And my fingers opened up and that said to me, no. So they might have gotten moldy overnight. I threw them away. All right. So this is the opponent's pollicis longus muscles here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use those to ask ourselves questions. You've probably all heard about biofeedback. There are machines that measure the tension in your muscles, and people can have attachments up here to the muscles across your forehead. And people who have migraines can go to a biofeedback technician and learn to relax muscles that then stop their tension or stop their stress or stop their anxiety about giving birth or all kinds of things. So we're going to use muscles to give us biofeedback. So touch your thumb and your little finger together and make an O. It happens that a doctor in Japan named Omura, his name started with an O, and he made an O with his fingers. And it's called the O-ring test for two reasons. It's an O, and the doctor that invented it, his name started with O. Okay, so then you're going to use your index finger and your thumb, and you're going to stick it in to be the lever and try and push those two away. Some of you on this call are going to have your body answer yes by your fingers opening. And some of you, like me, are going to have your body answer yes by having it closed. It doesn't matter which it is. There's no right answer. All you need is a reliable, repetitive response. So you need to figure out for you which one is it. Okay, so ask yourself, whatever your name is, Anna, Valsa, Patty, what is my yes? And
what is my yes?
Yes. If it doesn't work for you and you're not sure if the answer, ask yourself a question. Do I spell my name usually P-A-T-I? And it's going to be either yes or no, okay, one way or the other for you. So ask yourself a question where it's very, very clear. The answer is yes or no.
So Carolyn, I've been using a food intolerance test with my clients, and it also will check. It's 100. You can choose up to 176 foods, dyes, poultry, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I wanted to try it first, and I could not believe that egg whites and egg yolks came up for me. And I have been on this farm fresh egg addiction. I could eat eggs every single day. And sure enough, they came up in my food intolerance test. And I just did that. Are eggs good for me? And my fingers open right up. But if I say, is my drink good for me? Because it's loaded with vitamins, it stays closed.
Good for you. I'm proud of you, Mary. Yeah. So did I tell you already the story of the chocolate? I had a patient who ate a bar of chocolate every single day. One bar every day at 10 o'clock. She always had it in her office, in her drawer. And I treated her for a number of things and got to chocolate. I treated her for chocolate. I assured her chocolate was still going to taste delicious. She just wasn't going to have it. She didn't believe me. So she calls me up a week later and she says, I can't believe it. But days after your treatment, I needed something from that drawer, and I opened the drawer and there was a chocolate bar in there. I hadn't opened up the drawer. I hadn't thought about the drawer in days. So it really works. And then somebody, I think I did say to you that somebody said to me, I couldn't possibly be allergic to dairy because I drink a gallon of milk a day. Anybody says to you, they love something, you know they're most likely allergic to that thing. Because when you're allergic to something and you're exposed to it, there is a physical reaction. There is a change in your physiology. You have all kinds of activity in your blood system. And that activity is like a drug. It's stimulatory. You like it. You feel different. You don't know that it's happening. You just know that it's a good thing when you have that thing inside your physiology. And when you don't have it, after a while, you go into withdrawal and then you want it again. And different people have different levels of time when they need to repeat it. So if you're sensitive to wheat, and I've
Or
recommended
alcohol.
well, okay, alcohol. If you're, it's not as easy with alcohol.
No, but
It's not
Carolyn,
really, you can't, I'm trying to think of how you would hide alcohol in these, but wheat, you could have bread, you could have a muffin, you could have, you could,
Beer,
you
right?
could have beer, Hefeweizen, this is made from the wheat later on. So every few hours you would find something that had wheat in it, not the same thing every time. With alcohol, maybe it's the same thing that you're exposed to it.
Carolyn, the reason I wanted to bring up alcohol is because, as you know from Joan Matthew Larson's 7 Weeks to Sobriety, she identifies as one of her 3 alcoholic biotypes, people who literally are allergic to alcohol.
Yes, that's
Which
true.
is different from the other type of alcohol use disorders physiologically.
Right.
So I'm curious as to whether you've ever used this approach with people with alcohol use disorder who fall within that allergic to alcohol type.
No
These
one
are the
come to me
more
in my private practice where I had to treat them for that. And in the drug court where I was running a program that was for like 18, I was involved for about 18 years, where we had the whole morning and we did a lot of nutrition, as you know, and nutritional supplements and stuff. It might have helped them to have changed their diet for the people that were sensitive, but I didn't do the NAET to the clients at the drug court for allergies, although we did do tapping. So maybe the tapping for the allergies without it really, without saying out loud, this is for your allergy to alcohol, maybe that was part of the
you
treatment.
may have heard, because I've had lots of clients actually who are technically allergic to alcohol, and they have a very hard time staying sober because they can get exposed to chemically alcohol related fumes, like
Yeah.
fingernail polish remover, or gasoline, or all sorts of things that you don't think is related to alcohol, and then all of your body products. And these people tend to be chronic relapsers because they're always exposing themselves to something that triggers this immune response in the body that
Yeah.
sets off the alcohol craving. So it seems to me, from what you just said, and I had never connected this before, but I'm going to start paying attention to this, that people with that particular type of alcohol use disorder might benefit tremendously by going to an NAET practitioner and going through the list and getting to the point of diffusing their allergy to alcohol. Doesn't mean they can drink again. But what it will mean is that they're not going to get the intense cravings after they go into a nail salon or, walk into a chemical factory.
Excellent. Yeah.
All right. We need to pull this to an end. Any final questions for Carolyn, or Carolyn, any final thing you would like to say?
Hold on. I just do like to say I want to thank Mary and you, Christina, for kind of steering me this way and inviting me to this presentation. I've got some things written down on this paper. It's, how's the relationship between allergy and addiction related? How do I have that initial conversation with my clients as to this form of holistic treatment? How do we engage them with that conversation? And thirdly, if they say yes, what would be the first step that we need to do to initiate this type of service?
Okay, Christina, you got your welcome papers.
Alton,
Yes.
I sent you, first of all, thank you for coming. Everyone, this is Alton Robinson. I had an amazing appointment with him last week, left me in tears on my way home, happy tears. But Christina and I threw some dates in your email. We're hoping we have a date with you this week on Zoom, so take a look. And
We most definitely will. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here, and I hope that somebody gained something from it.
You were fantastic.
Wonderful, Carolyn. Thank you so much.
Lovely seeing you,
Thank
Carolyn.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Carolyn.
Fantastic way to start the Saturday. Well, it's earlier here
Yes.
where we are. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye
All
all.
right.
Bye,
Bye-bye,
everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.